hopefully you can hear me at the back. Cool. Right, so yeah, OutSystems. Basically, it's, as everyone said, a platform that you're sort of getting. And the nice thing about OutSystems is it's fairly easy to consume, basically. So this is essentially the development environment. This is where users would, or developers would come in and start creating some applications. And that's pretty much what we'll do now. So I'll go ahead and create a new application. It actually gives you the opportunity to start from an existing application. So if I actually click into the start from an app section, they give you these pre-built sort of applications that you can potentially get and modify to, I guess, your particular needs. Some very generic stuff such as inventory, events, order management, product catalog, and task management, basically. So these are something that already exist and you can already install and pretty much use off the bat. But what we'll do is we'll just start from scratch, basically. And you can see that it gives you the option of reactive web apps, tablet, phone app, and any custom apps that you potentially develop in-house. So I'll just go ahead and create a reactive web app. We'll just call it CRM web for now. And you'll see that there's actually a color picker at the back here, and that's just theming. So that's the light theming that you can have. You can choose different colors, or you can upload a client. Upload an image. And what that'll do is we'll sort of take the image and extract the best color that it thinks would look good. So in this case, it's the cloud blue. So I'll go ahead and create that one. Cool. And once we create an application, you can actually have multiple modules within the application, but we'll just use the one for now. And then this is where it starts getting interesting, because what we see is essentially what Novata described earlier. We have the data layer, potential, and the logic layer, the interface layer, and the processes layer. And you'll see that off the bat, there's not much in it at the moment, but you can actually start developing really rapidly by going through each one of these tabs, and that's pretty much what we'll do now. So I'll just go ahead and import some data from Excel. So we prepared an Excel spreadsheet which contains the data that we would showcase, and I'll just open that up really quickly. And it's quite a simple Excel spreadsheet. It just has some booking information, it has some client information, and it has some location-based information. So nothing too fancy, just some data, just some flat data at the moment. So once I import that, it's gonna automatically, without me doing anything other than clicking this import button, create all the database actions, all the logic that's required to implement this data. And the other thing is it's actually bootstrapped the entire application with the data that I had. So this database already contains all the clients that I just imported, all the bookings, all the locations, etc. And we'll just hop in and have a look and see what some of these fields look like. So as an example, the location table has a name, the address, it has a latitude, and it has a longitude. You'll see that automatically it picked up the best data type for this particular field, given the data, given the name of the actual column. So you'll see that this latitude and longitude is a decimal, naturally. And it even picked up the amount of decimal places it maps to. This particular one is a phone number, and it knew that it's a phone number, so the data type is a phone number. And that works with pretty much basic data types, such as booleans, integers, date times, currency, all that good stuff. So in the booking section here, and because we're going to be building this and sort of verifying that users want to book, I'll just create a new entity and just call it is verified. What that's done is it created the column for me. I didn't have to write any SQL code or anything, it just pretty much did everything. It also selected the correct data type because it knows that I'm looking for a boolean, which is a true false value. So that's basically all the platform is doing right off the bat. And I just want to update this particular client ID, because what we want to do is the client can also be a user of the application. And that you what the application did in the background for us in terms of the logic. So if I hop into the Bootstrap bookings function, basically, this is the actions that it takes to perform the function. You'll see that there's no real code here, and as Paul sort of mentioned, the drag and drop experience is quite easy and seamless to use. We have our database aggregates over here. All I need to do is drag a database aggregate onto the screen, and it knows to create the SQL queries, create everything for me. I can double click this and start editing the filters or the sorting depending on whatever business requirements is needed. I can start doing some logic trees, conditional trees, just basically deciding which direction to go. And you can do some powerful functions within a single node. As an example here, convert from Excel. I can't imagine what kind of code goes on behind convert from Excel. But all it is it's a simple entity. I drag it into the screen. I update some properties, and it just does and spits out the result. And that's how a loop works. So for each item in the Excel spreadsheet, we'll just go ahead and assign some records and actually do the database query to create the booking. Cool. So one other thing we can do is, because we're going to be using this application in both mobile and a web space, I just want to create these entities as public, meaning that not only this application can consume the database, any other applications that we import can also do that. So it's just a couple of clicks of buttons. So now we've gone through the data tab, we've gone through the logic basically, and the interface. This is also where it gets a bit interesting, because right off the bat we don't have any screens, we don't have any real substance to the application. We do have some high-level layouts, which is like the container for the application, and some common blocks that we could potentially use, such as the menu, such as the user information, etc. But if I wanted to start actually creating some of these screens, all I would need to do is take this database and drag it onto the screen. Take this database entity and drag it onto this empty canvas. And you'll see what that's done is automatically created the screens format. And if I actually hop into that screen, this particular item, you'll see that the table's been created for me. Columns, whether that's appropriate or not, but we can add and remove columns as needed. Searching functionality, pagination, all by dragging a column or a database onto the screen. If I actually go into the add location functionality, the form has been created, the database actions have been assigned. I can go in and just update or tweak as I need, but for now this should be okay. So I'll actually go in and drag both the clients and the booking database onto the screen. Right. So one other thing we can do is we can actually start data modeling from the application, or from the Service Studio as well. I'm going to do a similar thing. This is the data model, so I'll drag all these three entities onto the data model. At the moment, they're not linked in any way, really, and rightfully so. They don't have any links at this point. But in OutSystems and in most database languages, you can start creating links between particular database entities. And the nice thing about OutSystems is I can just go in and I know that the client is associated to a booking. So I'll go ahead and drag that. You probably wouldn't see that, but it automatically created a client ID reference from the booking. And I'll do the same thing for the location, because I know a booking can have a location. And right there we have the client ID and location ID populated for us. And that means that this is our documentation. This is where our, I guess, database lives, and we can start, we can start potentially exposing this to external clients. So this is what our data structure looks like. And obviously you can start editing items and adding, removing, seeing where everything goes. But for this particular case, it's quite simple. Cool. Right, so now what I'll do is I'll actually publish that application. So once I hit this green button at the top, it's going to generate the database queries. It's going to upload a version of the application into the cloud. And I say version because every single time we publish an application or publish a version, it becomes stored for us to download at a later stage. So that means version history is out of the box. We can roll back to any version that we potentially need to and use that in the future for whatever reason. Cool, so now the application is stored and available in the cloud. So if I actually open up one of my incognito windows, anyway, I'll access the application. And another thing that it automatically did for me is that it doesn't know who I am, so it's going to ask me to log in. So the data could be very private and I guess access restricted, and anyone within the platform can start logging in quite simply here. So I'll just log in with one of the accounts that we have. And right off the bat, we see the application that we just built, and that was about 5 minutes or so. So we have sorting capabilities, we have searching capabilities, we have editing capabilities, saving functionality, etc. All that's been done for us. That's just out of the box. And you can also see clients and bookings, basically. All right, so the next thing I'd like to showcase is how easy it is to start integrating external modules or external plugins. So we have this address picker, and not many people sort of know, but you can use Google to have an address picker for you. So I'll just go in and start implementing this address picker. And all we have to do is in the details screen, we will just start importing our references. And we know that the reference is a complete widget. Perfect. And it's just a matter of finding that particular widget, attaching it to the address field. You'll see that it actually highlighted this widget because it's not configured. I can't deploy an application, or I can't deploy a version of the application that's going to break the end user's experience. So OutSystems prevents me from doing that automatically by using the true change functionality. So you can see that there's 3 errors that I need to fix before actually being allowed to deploy the application. So this prevents really silly mistakes that developers could potentially do right off the bat. And I'll just hook this up to the address field like we mentioned. I'll actually add an API key. Because this is Google, we do need an API key, which we do have. And there's no real other options. We'll just have a event handler. And now we're going to be doing some code, some really basic code. I'll go ahead and assign some of the variables from the item that we're editing. So I'll edit the address. I'll change that to the formatted address. And it might be pretty small to see, but as I'm selecting the latitude as an example, what OutSystems is doing is it's automatically suggesting the best potential candidate for that variable. So right here it says that the result is the latitude, and that's the one I want to select actually. So I'll go ahead and add a lot of these items. Yeah. And you can start grabbing the phone numbers, the website, any of the external information from Google, and start populating this details. But we'll just grab the address for now. And I'll republish the application. And you'll see that this is how quick it is to update an application. I've just implemented a Google picker or an address picker. And once it's deployed, all I need to do is go back to my application, which is over here, reload the page, and assuming everything is okay, we'll start seeing an address picker right there. So So if I were to change the address to another Novata Solutions from St. George's Terrace, and it picks up the latitude, the longitude automatically. Again, I didn't update the website, but I'll keep that on. And there you go. It's updated. It's quite simple. That's pretty rapid. All right. Sorry, excuse me. I'm just going to go off my notes. I don't want to get this wrong. Right, so that's really all I pretty much wanted to show in terms of the web. So I guess in the couple of minutes that we had, we deployed an entire web application. Authentication has been set up for us. We've set up a couple of screens, actually, technically 6 screens. We have search functionality, we have filtering, we have the ability to add, edit, remove, all that stuff is just there for us. And I mean, we didn't really do much other than implement a custom address pickup, which took us about a minute or so. So yeah, we'll hop off the web for now, and we'll start looking at the mobile view of things. So obviously this is a CRM booking application. So I'll just go ahead and create a new application, and we'll do the same steps that we did before. We'll just create a scratch application and just be a problem for now. And we'll just call this CRM mobile, and we'll submit the same image. While that is generating, we can talk about the fact that I created a web application just minutes ago, but now I'm creating a mobile application, and it's the exact same steps that I performed earlier, and it's the exact same environment that I'm developing. So what that means is that a single developer can develop both web and mobile applications given knowledge, but it's the same experience and the same sort of flow. So it's not too difficult to sort of move from one to the other. And further to that, you can actually start importing your modules that you've already created in the web into the mobile. So I'm not going to recreate those database entities. I don't need to. They already exist. I just need to import them. So I'll go ahead and import pretty much all the references from our previous application. And I'll just also import a couple of other dependencies that we'll use for this demo. So one is the Google Maps. We'll start importing some Google Maps because we're going to showcase a bit of Google Maps integration. We'll also showcase a bit of Twilio connector and sort of show you how pretty much easy it is to enable a SMS back and forth. And just one more would be and this is just going to allow us to have a sign-up flow, so you guys can basically create or be created within the application. So the similar experience we saw before, we have the data, the logic, the interface, and what we'll start doing is creating a new sign-up flow. I'll go ahead and add a new screen. Similar to what we saw before, we added a new application, but now we're starting to create a new screen, and we can start creating a screen based off of an existing template. Right here we see account portal and dashboard. So if you have something in mind, or if you want to trial something out, OutSystems gives you a lot of templates that you can leverage to just start building and then tweaking as we need. And one particular item that I want to use today is the user details screen. And I'll just call this sign up. Create the screen. And similarly in OutSystems fashion, it creates the screen, it populates the database calls, all the server actions that we're going to use. We actually don't need those. And it doesn't actually implement any logic because it is just a template, so we can start developing our business use case for this. But you'll notice that it says get employees by ID. We're not interested in any employees particularly, but what we are interested in is clients. And I've created this screen within OutSystems, and now what I want to do is I want to take this database and you'll see that the text reads replace data with client. And all that's done is completely replace the references of employees to clients. And now it's my data that we're using now, or it's our data that we're using. It does try its best to match the fields. As an example, you'll see that the email field is matched, the first and last name field is matched, but the date of birth is not, we don't actually have a date of birth, but we do know that it's mapping to the mobile number. And in our case, the mobile number will actually be the username. So you'll sign up with your mobile number, which will be your username, and we are missing a password. So let's go ahead and create a password field. I actually copied and pasted an entire section, so I can copy a block of widgets and duplicate it, and OutSystems doesn't, to clash them. They're just independent, and you can go ahead and edit the items as you need. So I've got to create a password. We don't actually have a password property, but we can just create a new variable and call it password. And we'll just need to set up some, we'll need to make that text. That's really it. Let's create a new variable for the username as well. Alright, so that's essentially our sign-up screen, or at least the UI changes for the sign-up screen. Have a sign up now function, and we'll just edit some items. As I'm editing, you'll notice that I'm just editing directly on the page itself, so I can have a quick representation of what it might look like on an actual mobile device or web. So now we'll just do a bit of the meaty work. So when we start saving, there's a couple of things we want to do. We want to take this user and create them as a client. So all I need to do is the database actions exist. I just need to create a new client, and all I need to do is pass the source in from our form. I'll go ahead and actually create the user as well using our function that we have. So verify and register user. And the user will be a custom property or a custom object that we create. And the name is going to be the first name from the form. It's going to be, the username is going to be the username. Password is basically going to be the password, and email, similar thing. Mobile phone is going to be the username. And when is the user created? We created today, and the user will be active. Yes. And we'll just add some messaging to sort of indicate that that has successfully happened. So we'll just say successfully. So that's all it takes to complete a sign-up flow. So when a particular user comes in and wants to sign into the application, they'll fill out the form, they'll hit the sign up now button, and yeah, that's what will happen. So I'll go ahead and make this sign-up screen anonymous because we want external users to be able to access the screen. And authentication is quite simple. We can toggle on or off really easily with a checkbox item. And we also want to actually update the login screen to point to our new sign up page. So I'm editing the screen over here, and I'll just edit the link to be pointing to the sign up page. Yeah. So now if I were to deploy this application, open this in the browser. previewing this application, OutSystems actually gives us a that's much better. Cool. So this is our application. The nice thing is it gives you a preview mode of what it could potentially look like on a mobile device. It gives you some touch interaction, so you'll see that there's pretty simple. Enabling the PWA is click a button, and it'll prompt you to open Service Studio, which already have open. And we'll go ahead and distribute this application as a PWA. So now it's basically a PWA, so users can consume the application and basically just start using it. You can also actually start developing a iOS native application and an Android native application. And this is where we will put applications into either the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. So all in the one space, we can start generating native applications. We have PWAs, we have the development environment. It's all just really easy to use and consume. And the wording is quite really obvious. So anyone can sort of pick up and essentially start developing for that case. Alright, so yeah, I'll go ahead and sign up now. I'll just fill in some dummy details at the moment. And my username is going to be my mobile number. Sign up now. That is an interesting bug which we will need to fix in a second. So if I were to edit this functionality, so all I'm doing now is I actually created a client before creating a user. Technically, I needed to create a user before creating a client. So that's pretty much what I'll do right now. And you'll see that even though there are some errors and stuff, OutSystems immediately lets you know. So you can start editing and fixing those errors really quickly rather than getting it to the end user and having a bunch of bug reports come through. I'll go ahead and reload the application. I'll sign up now and hopefully I've successfully registered. I didn't actually create a screen to indicate that I've successfully registered, but what we'll start doing is create bookings. So in a similar fashion, I'll go ahead and create a new screen, but in this case, I just want to create a blank screen. The reason I want to create a blank screen is because I know that the application, or the screen I want to create isn't one of these default screens. I'll create a blank booking screen. I'll call it bookings. And now what I want to do is I want to add a map onto the canvas. And it's just as simple as dragging the map widget onto the canvas. And right off there we have Google Maps integration out of the box with just a little bit of configuration that we have to set up. So we need the API key. I know that we just want to show stuff in Australia, so these are the latitude and longitude of Australia. Oh, sorry, and we'll just have the zoom level of something generic, like 13 is fine. This is not auto-fitting, and cool. So now the map is on the page, we can start showing the locations that we just described earlier. So I'll go ahead and fetch data from a database, and I'll just add the locations table onto the screen. And basically what's going to happen is when the user comes to the screen, the locations are going to get loaded up for them. And all we need to do is map the markers on the map to the locations, which is what I'm doing right now. I'll just go ahead and take the locations list. And in OutSystems fashion, it automatically mapped the most appropriate fields to the marker type that we described earlier. And another thing I do want to add in is just an event on the marker, a click event, which we'll showcase later. Now, once I publish this application, now we'll go to this booking screen, and that should allow us to at least see the bookings, or at least see the locations. So bookings is loaded, and I'll see that these are the locations that I entered in earlier. And it's just a normal map, so I can interact with it as a normal user would. So the next step here is to allow users to select a location and book a session, I guess. In this case, we're just going to call it book something, but yeah, we'll just start booking something. And to enable that, we'll just need a pop-up screen or pop-up module. And in the pop-up module, we just want to have the location to show up. Text. Just drag that on there. And this will be called details. And I've actually done no styling so far, but OutSystems provides you with a really easy mechanism to style your components, basically. Right here you can see, similar to Word, you can select bold, italic, underline. I don't have to write any CSS, although if you wanted to get deeper into the CSS, you do have the ability to. But for now, we'll just go ahead and make this text size slightly larger. There's no need to edit any margins or padding or borders or anything, at least for now. And one thing we are missing is the actual location details. So I'll create a new variable and import it to selected location. And probably bored of me saying this, but in OutSystems fashion, it automatically knows that this variable needs to be a location by typing it out. And what I can do is actually take this variable, drag it onto the screen, and it'll create a listing for me right off the bat. So right there, I have a pop-up. I have the details for a particular listing, and I'll just actually go ahead and remove that space. And I'll just go ahead and add some buttons to indicate the actions that we can perform on this particular pop-up. So we'll call this book now, and we'll call this button. And obviously, you'll see that there are 3 areas that we need to resolve, and we'll just go ahead and resolve that. So we're missing a variable to show pop-up. So we only want to show the pop-up when the user selects a particular item. So is pop-up shown. Create it as a Boolean for me. I'll just select that variable in the show pop-up field. Now I actually want to leave this one for a bit later, so I'll create some dummy actions at the moment. And I'll put similar with the close. So the close is quite simple. All we need to do is we need to take the pop-up and change the variable to false. So I'll assign the pop-up to false. And one thing we are missing is to actually show the pop-up when the user selects an item. And this particular plugin allows us to have events. So when a map event has been raised, I'll do a similar thing. I'll assign is pop-up shown to true, meaning that the pop-up will appear, and I also assign the selected item that the user is selecting to the item in the list that they selected. And now go ahead and publish that application. And while that's building, I will just navigate back to our application over here. If I were to reload this page now, if I click on items, the pop-up shows and appears, and that's actually the data for that particular item, Mirror Clinic, this one is East Perth, etc. So it's quite simple to use, quite simple to follow, I suppose. I hope let's hope that that's the case. And yeah, the last bit is to actually hook up this Book Now button. So the idea behind this Book Now button is that you will select a item and you'll book now. But what we'll do is we'll verify that you'd like to book this particular location with a SMS to your mobile. And we'll use Twilio as a connector. And we'll see how simple it is to enable that feature. All right, so all we need to do is on this particular button, on this particular button, all I want to do is run a server action and call Twilio SMS. I'll just send a simple message. That's all it is. The from will be SMS. If you have a Twilio account, you can actually supply your phone number in that section. And then this can also allow, potentially in the future, for users to respond directly within the SMS application. So they'll get a message, they'll say yes, no, option 1, option 2, etc. And now we have these fields that we need to fill out, the to and the message. So we know the message needs to go to the current logged in user. So I'll just go ahead and get the user's details. Get current user information. And I'll just send that off to their, because we know that their username is, actually that's their mobile. That's their mobile phone number. But one thing we do need to do is, in Twilio, we need to actually clean the mobile number, meaning that it needs to be in 61, etc. But what we'll do is we'll automatically handle that in background with this function, clean mobile number. And the message to send, actually have a message right here. What that would say is confirm your booking here, and we need to actually start creating a booking. And again, all we need to do is take the action that OutSystems generated for us to create booking, drag that onto the screen, and start configuring the booking. So the booking date would be today, the current date. The client would be, because we have the current user's information, would be their name. The location, we know the selected item, so select the location. If they verified, we'll just say false for now. Because they aren't verified, the booking isn't verified until the user verifies it. And we'll just set some reference information, the client ID, which is the user info ID, and the location, which is the location. So what we've done is we've essentially hooked up Twilio to this button. And now the last step for us to do is actually create a confirmation screen. So when the user returns to the application, we need to acknowledge their that they've come back and confirm their booking. So we'll just call that booking confirmation for now. Confirmation. And we'll just go ahead and create a simple screen using the blank slate functionality, which allows us to put a nice icon in the middle of the screen. And we'll just make this a check. Circle with some text, let's say, booking is confirmed. And again, we can do the same thing. We can make this text